I thought I would share some pictures of Mylerstown Castle, well, what's left of it, and also of the area around the castle, which is the place that I live. The castle is in the fields beside where I live, on my neighbour's land. One question you might ask yourself is, why is some of the stone in this ruins vertical rather than horizontal? You might want to think on that for a while. This castle is built from limestone, which is local to the area. My house was built from the same stone, and it sits on a bedrock of limestone too. Wherever I dig, I find limestone rocks. So like my ancestors did, I use them to build things. Even our water supply is filtered through limestone bedrock, 200 feet below ground, and as a result, the water is very hard. The land here is a fertile clay soil. That's Carbury Castle you can see in the distance. Mylerstown Castle looks across to Carbury Castle from one hill to another. The Queen of England's ancestors lived in Carbury Castle for 6 generations from the 1600s onwards. Between the two castles is the source of the River Boyne, or maybe more correctly, one of the sources of the River Boyne, as there are more than one. One of the sources here rises in the field just below Mylerstown Castle. The spring is encircled with hawthorn. In the past, hawthorn trees were considered guardians of the spring, the clear, cool water from the belly of the earth. Beside the spring, there is a distinct drop-off in the land, like a lake edge or bank. The area below is a marshy floodplain with irises, rushes, willow, and diverse marshland habitat. I'm fairly sure there was a very large lake here many years ago. My neighbour thinks his grandfather may have drained the lake to increase the usable land. The River Boyne flows past many historical sites, including Trim Castle and Newgrange, and is probably the reason why they were built in the places they were. The river was used to transport much of the stone from Wicklow and Clogherhead to Newgrange and the other historical monuments in the area. Many times a year, my neighbour allows amateur historians with metal detectors to check the ground for artefacts. They have found coins and other small metal objects. There's a rumour that there is a Mylerstown chalice. Mylerstown Castle is in ruins for hundreds of years, but it was built in the 1400s by Miles Birmingham, who was a Norman settler and a very powerful man. I think that my house and many other structures nearby used the stone from Mylerstown Castle to build them. It is said that even the local council removed stone from it for building works. I think this was probably at least partly responsible for the collapse of the ruins in 1963. Up to then it was a very tall structure, but came crashing down sideways one stormy night. If you look at the stone clustered in the ruins, it is obvious that there has been much stone picked and plundered from this site over the years. There is very little facing stone left, but the thickness and mass of what was originally walls is quite remarkable. What's left today is some sections of wall and some outcrops with a sculptural aesthetic. Ireland is full of ruins such as this, and many of them have very little written about them in history. Much of what was known about them seems to be lost. As a result, they seem to have very little historical value. I have no doubt that there are lots of buried clues and artefacts too. I like to think that the stone that built my house had a previous life in Mylerstown Castle. Then it had a life in a house opposite my house. An ordnance survey from the 1800s shows a house across the road from my house before mine was built. The next map from 1907 shows my house and the other house is gone, so I have a strong suspicion that the stone was taken from one house to build the other. And so the recycling continued. What I find interesting about this ruin is the diversity of interesting materials, plants and habitats. The farmer leaves the grass and wildflowers to grow around it. The fallen walls provide a different, dry, sunny habitat, a bit like that of the burn. The outcrop known as the chair grows fescue grasses and scabious, The stone hosts mosses, lichens and provides large skyscraper of apartment living for insects. There are sunny sides, shady sides, north, south, east and west. Whenever I walk by there is something interesting in terms of light, shadow, wildflowers, grass or stone shapes. All of this sits into a landscape which is both agricultural and natural. Both seem to sit happily together. There is a wide variety of flora and fauna in and around the hedgerows, along the lanes and down in the lowlands. There is a delicate balance to be struck in this sensitive area of springs, wetland habitat and biodiverse landscape. The more intense monocrop agricultural land must be managed carefully so as not to impact upon the surrounding nature. The farmer is careful with weather, timings, fertilizer and chemical application in order to achieve this balance. The rewards for maintaining this balance seem obvious when you look at these pictures. Buttercups, daisies, primroses, violets, dog roses, blackberries, wild strawberries, elderberries, lots of different herbs, and not to mention the fauna, spiders, insects, birds, amphibians, mice, voles, rats, foxes, badgers, and the mushrooms and toadstools in all their amazing shapes and sizes. Also nearby Mylerstown Castle is Carbury Bog, and this is a very sensitive and protected landscape. There is no turf cutting or extraction of peat from this bog anymore. So mosses, algae, bog cotton and this carnivorous plant sundew can all live and be biodiverse, and the landscape continues to be diverse. Many plants we see as weeds are essential hosts to insects. Nature naturally achieves a balance. Allowing wildflowers and insects in the landscape can even keep pest and disease numbers down. Minimizing use of chemicals can help to restore delicate habitat and species. I am so lucky to live in this beautiful and historical place, and I hope by looking after its diverse nature, it will be around for future generations. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Wherever you live, get out and enjoy the beauty of the nature that surrounds you.